This video was brought to you by Squarespace. Hey, what is up guys? David Zhao here, and today we're gonna do, here, come on in. We're gonna do a little studio tour. But really, it's just a home office. If you couldn't tell, this is just a guest bedroom converted into my little home office so that I can do my photography, videography, YouTube, content creation work. But really, the crux of today's video is gonna be talking about what goes on behind the scenes, what equipment do I use, what cameras, lenses, what do I have all around here, and how does it make my life easier, and how does it help me produce content for you guys. And we have a camera woman today. Thank you, Annette. Roll the intro. As always guys, if you want to check out any of the equipment we talk about today in this video, there's gonna be a huge link of description, a huge list of links in the description down below, so make sure to check that out if you're interested in anything. Okay, so the first thing I wanted to talk about is my desk setup. Now this thing has evolved over the years and I've done a lot of different changes to it, but the first thing that I want to talk about is probably going to be the computer. So I'm still using the PC tower that I built back in 2018 when I made that Black Friday video. It's running a Threadripper 1950X 16 core processor, 64 gigs of RAM, and sporting an outdated GTX 1080 Ti. But ever since I got the A7S III with that beautiful 4K 422 10-bit 120 frames per second footage in S-Log3, just chef, so good. It has been dropped frame city when it comes to editing. Now, I talked about it in a past video on the M1 MacBook Air review, links up here if you wanna check that out. And it was just becoming such a nightmare to edit because it was constantly dropping frames, it was super choppy. Even just the footage with no effects on it, playing it back was a nightmare. So editing was such a headache. But I still use it for, you know, my back-end stuff, productivity uses, and of course some gaming here and there to relax. But nowadays I've been using the M1 MacBook Air as my main editing machine, which is kind of nuts considering it's like $1,000 compared to like my prior setup, which was like $2,000 or $3,000. This new M1 processor chip is absolutely amazing. It's super efficient. If you really want to know more about this laptop, I really do recommend checking out that review I did. But now all of my photo projects as well as my video projects for clients and for YouTube are all edited on the M1 MacBook Air. Now, the first thing you probably notice is actually this gigantic monitor over here. This is the LG 49-inch ultra-wide 32:9 aspect ratio. This is an absolute beast. I absolutely love this setup. It's mounted on the Ergotron desk mount. This thing weighs 50 pounds. It is not fun to mount by yourself, but I've tried it all, everything from 2 monitors to 3 monitors, and I've had successes, and also there's cons to using those. 2 monitors, really great, really productive, but you're never looking straight down when you're sitting in your chair. You're always looking off to one side or the other, so that's always kind of a pain and kind of bad for posture. With 3 monitors, they end up bending so far out that you're like turning your head completely to the side when you want to use the side monitors. So I found that using an ultra-wide has been my preferred go-to when it comes to productivity, as well as editing. So one of the great things about using a 32:9 aspect ratio ultra wide monitor is that if you're editing videos, you get an extremely wide amount of space to use. That means your timeline, you get the whole thing. You also get all your panels fully expanded on the side with the video footage in the middle. It's just really nice. And also when it comes to productivity, if you're working, let's say you're writing a script for a video, you can have the Word doc open in the center of the screen and then have browsers open on each side. So while you're doing research on the topic that you're writing a script about, you don't have to be constantly alt-tabbing. All that information is there and readily accessible. And finally, of course, some games support it. Ultra-wide gaming is super immersive and a lot of fun. Oh, and one thing actually about the monitors that I forgot to mention, one really cool thing that I really love about them is they have a built-in picture-in-picture profile system where if you have 2 computers or 2 input sources plugged into this, you can actually split screen and then run 2 computers off of the same monitor, which is really nice when I need to be using my desktop for something, maybe for like some back-end stuff, using my client management system, as well as having my MacBook plugged in because I'm maybe editing photos at the same time. And the next thing I want to draw attention to is the speakers over here, the Yamaha HS5 powered speakers. Now these are great speakers, has really great neutral and flat sound profile, so that way when you're editing sounds and you're editing videos, you don't have too much boosted bass. You get a really realistic representation of what your audio will sound like, and that's the best way to work with audio so that it sounds good across different types of devices, headphones, speakers once you export. Now, one thing I do have to say is I bought these a few years ago and they are great, they're amazing, but I only ever have them turned up to like 20-25% volume. These things can drive so much sound, so much that I actually don't need. So if I could go back in time, I'd probably end up getting the Yamaha HS5s instead. They have a smaller footprint. I could probably just crank up the volume a little bit louder and save a little bit of money as well as desk space. Now, the next thing I want to bring you guys' attention to is just some of the wireless peripherals. Now, this isn't anything crazy. I always used to be a huge fan of mechanical keyboards, but I really wanted to free up some of the clutter because there was so many cables running everywhere. So this is the Logitech G613 wireless keyboard, as well as the Logitech G603 wireless mouse. Now, these are great because they can connect both via a Wi-Fi dongle that you can plug into your computer, but also can connect via Bluetooth, which is amazing. And the two things to point out is these both feature their light speed, quote unquote, light speed technology. Just basically means that it's super low latency wireless connection, right? Because gone are the days where wireless peripherals meant you had some really bad input lag with your mouse or your keyboard. But so nowadays, I haven't been able to perceive that it's slower than a wired connection, even when I'm playing like shooters or something. Over here, I've got the blue Yeti mounted on the Yeticaster boom arm. This boom arm is amazing, and this isn't for anything. I don't really use it for recording. I've tried using it for recording for videos in the past, but I didn't like having to sync up audio. But I use this obviously for like when I'm on Discord or on Teams or on Zoom. This is really nice for audio quality. And over here, we've got some headphones. Now, I actually have two pairs of headphones. I have a wired pair down here, and of course, these are the Apple Airpods Maxes. Now, for those of you wondering, yes, they sound great. Are they worth $500? Not really. They're about as good as a $300-400 pair of headphones. They've got that Apple tax, but I just got talked into it by my friends. I listened to them and I just absolutely fell in love with them. I love the audio quality. I love the build quality. I love the fact that it's wireless. And one cool thing is now that I'm editing on the M1 MacBook Air, they work pretty well. There's a very, very small amount of latency when you're editing. So if you have to do really precise cuts to, let's say, music, you're doing a highlight video, for those, not the best use, but for generally speaking, if I'm editing, like let's say one of these YouTube videos or something that's not super sound critical, they're a really great experience to edit on. And finally, what I want to show off at the table is, how I connect the MacBook Air to the monitor and get everything hooked up here. And that's through this CalDigit TS3 Thunderbolt dock. Now, this is everything you need from a dock. It has your Thunderbolt pass-through, so you can power your laptop, but also this can also pass through a monitor. So you can go ahead and connect it to a monitor without having, two cables coming over here. And then on the back, you have everything from Ethernet to a vast array of USBs, because we all know Apple products do not have enough ports, and as well as like a SD card dock, a microphone jack, as well as a headphone jack. So that's it for the desk setup. I wanted to move over and talk about my camera tech storage solution. So this is a shelf I got from IKEA. I believe the catalog of furniture it comes from is Fjällbo?
Fjällbo.
But it's been a pretty great way to store my gear whenever I'm not using it, and so that it's ready to go whenever I need to pack up and head out for a shoot. Up here, first things first, obviously there's a ton of gimbals. Fun fact, I've owned about, I think 8 or 9 gimbals in my entire time shooting videos, and some of them I paid for myself, and then of course some of them were sent to me for review, but I actually do end up using all 4 of these interchangeably depending on what I'm doing or which one's charged or has a charged battery when I need to head out the door. Now over here we've got the camera and lens storage. So of course the current camera that's filming is the Sony a7S III. Over here, we've got the Sony a7 III and the Sony a6600. Now, the a7 III is exclusively my photo camera at this point, and the a7S III is my exclusive video camera. But if I ever need B-roll footage or if I need a camera to match footage from, I actually end up using the a6600. It just works really, really well. And over here, of course, everyone assumes I have a really, really big lens collection. I don't. I mean, it's It's a nice collection, but there are so many lenses I still want. Of course, on the camera right now is the Sony 24mm f1.4 G Master, my favorite lens of all time. Over here, we've also got the 24-70, we've got the 70-200, we've got the 85 1.4 G Master, as well as a recent addition, the Sony 90mm f2.8 G series. It's a macro lens because I've been doing so many product shoots and I needed something that was macro that wasn't a macro tube. These are great and all, but it's way harder to get the footage and the shots that you want. It's really finicky, but hey, cheap solution. Go ahead and pick up one of these if you don't have a macro lens. They're super cheap. They're like 20, 30 bucks on Amazon, and it's a nice stopgap to get you what you need in the meantime. Other than that, you know, I've got the Laowa 9mm f2.8, which is an APS-C lens, but it still gives you that super wide field of view. And if you use it on a full frame camera, you're just gonna have to crop in that footage in post, or if you can do an APS-C mode in body, you can do that as well. And of course, I've got some other APS-C lenses over here, the Viltrox 23 f1.4. Wanted to test out to see how good budget autofocus lenses have gotten these days. And of course, one of my old trusty workhorses, the Sigma 16 f1.4. And a few other things are randomly strewn over here. We've got two Insta1Xs, the original, the 1X2, as well as the GO2, which I recently just did a video on. This camera is honestly super awesome. Like, just look at how small that is. That's insane. Check out that review. I like that video. That was a fun video. Oh, and last thing, of course, down here, we've got a fog machine, because you never know when you need to haze up a room to get that cinematic look. And it's also a great thing to have for Halloween parties. And over here, we've got the YouTube station. It is a whole filming station on a C-stand. Now, this is a impact C-stand, and now recently it's been split up. The microphone used to be mounted on the C-stand itself. We'll get to that. But yeah, this was inspired by DSLR video shooters, you know, a full studio on a C-stand. It works incredibly. Love that guy. You gotta check out his content. He does some incredible stuff, drops a ton of knowledge. Now, what we've got here is, of course, a impact rolling C-stand and a few clamps, different mounts mounted on here, of course, for the camera, which is currently in Annette's hand, as well as over here, the lighting. This is the Weeylite Ninja 400. I reviewed it, how long ago was that? 6 to 8 months. And this is a bi-color cob light, works incredible, still absolutely love it. Still a great budget option. And on top of that, attached to it, we've got the Aputure Lightdome Mini 2. I would love to use a full-size Lightdome, but that thing is absolutely huge and this space just really isn't big enough for it. But this does a pretty dang good job. Now, I used to mount this boom arm right on here with the Rode Video Mic Pro Plus. Can't believe I forgot that. I've been using it for years. But now we've upgraded. This is the Sennheiser MKH416, an absolute unit of a microphone. This thing is absolutely incredible. And to power it, and as well as to give it a little bit of an amp, we've got the SoundDevices MP-1 here. So the microphone's running through here. We're boosting the gain by about 18 decibels, and then it runs into the camera. The audio that I've been getting from this for the past few videos has been absolutely amazing. You know, I think it's kind of hilarious that YouTubers and content creators spend thousands on their cameras and lenses, and then they spend like $300 on a Rode Video Mic Pro Plus, and they're like, that's good enough. And honestly, it is good enough, but it's just so funny. Audio is so important, and I'm so happy that I was finally able to upgrade to this. I've been wanting this for years now. And on this side of the room, this is probably what you're most familiar with. This is the YouTube set. It's just a futon that I've had for a few years now, but it's turned out to be very pretty for a background with the painting and the lights. These, of course, over here are the Nanlite PavoTube 30Cs. They're 4-foot long RGB tube lights, and they're absolutely amazing. Obviously, they can do bi-color, they can go warm and cool, as well as RGB, so you can dial in whatever colors you want, and they have some special effect modes in there too. If you want to see a review of that, I made that a little while ago. Absolutely amazing. Use them all the time. And when they're not in this room as a background set design, I actually use them quite a bit. I take them with me for shoots. They're battery powered, they run for hours. Amazing. Just And of course, finally, we've got this 3-piece painting that Annette and I got at, I think, Marshall's. It's been great. I'm getting tired of it. If you guys have any ideas in the comment section, let me know what I could put in the background instead. Now, before we move on to the rest of the tour, real quick, a word from today's sponsor. With Squarespace, I've been able to build a stunning looking portfolio which best represents my brand to my prospective clients. Utilizing their drag and drop online tools, I can easily update my galleries in just minutes to display some of my latest projects. On top of that, Squarespace has an appointment scheduling feature which my clients can use to easily book shoots days, weeks, or even months in advance. I've even used Squarespace to build a website for my mom's Chinese takeout restaurant, as well as for some of my past clients who are looking for a sleek website to market their products and services. If you haven't already, then you should definitely check them out. Head to squarespace.com/David Zhao for a free trial, and when you're ready to launch, you'll save 10% off your first purchase of a website or domain. And next, I wanted to talk about the charging wall. This is by far one of my favorite features in the office. It makes my life so much easier. And a lot of people have commented on it in the past saying, whoa, that's so cool. How did you do it? It was actually my friend Jonathan who gave me the idea and then sent me a tutorial. So if you guys want to check out how this thing is built, I'll put the link in the description down below to the video that I followed to build this. It has all the parts, it has how to do it and all that. One thing it doesn't tell you is you need to absolutely work the crap out of this metal right here, behind here, because the bolt doesn't fit. So that was fun. I didn't have any power tools. I just had pliers. I just used pliers on metal until I made the hole big enough to fit these bolts through. You've been warned. Anyways, this has been such a time saver. In the past, after I get back from a shoot, when I need to charge my batteries, I just had chargers strewn across the table and I would just have to like, all right, plug them in and do all that, right? So many times where I went out to go to a shoot and I pull up my camera, I'm like, oh crap, this battery's at 20%. So when that dies, I put in another battery, I'm like, that's a dead battery. And half my batteries were charged, half of them were lost. It was a terrible system. And when you shoot as often as I now shoot, you kind of need batteries on the go at all times. So it's really nice when you get back, you just unload your bag right on the table and then you go ahead and throw your dead batteries in the basket labeled dead batteries. You put your batteries on the chargers they need to go to, and when they're done, you just take it out, put it in the bin that says charged batteries. So next time when you're heading out, you can just grab it from there and you don't make that mistake ever again. On this wall, it has a bunch of storage. I basically use it as vertical storage. One thing I've learned when having this much stuff in a small room is that space is really important and there's just not enough places to put stuff. So over here, you know, obviously I have my DJI Mavic Pro 2 with the controllers as well as the battery charging up there. I've got my lavalier microphones all around. I also have storage here for my GoPro, for my camera monitors, wireless transmitters, and audio recorders, as well as something you always need, gaff tape, and my teleprompter. That's a nice spot to put it, and it looks really nice. It looks impressive. When friends come over, they're always like, whoa, that looks so cool. So that's a nice bonus. Next up, we've got the secondary desk. So the reason why this is here, this monitor was actually my old primary monitor until I switched to the 49-inch. This is a nice 4K color accurate monitor. These days, this desk is actually for my day job because when you're in the same spot doing your day job and then you get off and you do photography and videography and you do YouTube videos, and then it's like, oh cool, maybe I have an hour to go chill and play games or something like that before I go to bed or something. When you're in that same spot all day, it is a nightmare. So I like to have a little bit of separation. So this is where I work during the day normally, but you might also recognize that this is actually also the product videography, product station essentially. For all of the videos I've done, the reviews, all of the products have been shot right here. Now the tabletop, sometimes I'll just use it bare. I also have some vinyl textures like concrete that I lay out here to give some interesting backdrops for products. And down here, one second, foam core boards. It's a few bucks, super useful. If you ever need a bounce card, white side. If you need a white background, white side. If you need a negative fill, black side. If you need a black background on your black table for products, you just go ahead and set it there, prop it against the monitor, and boom, you're done. I have used this more than I've used some more expensive equipment I've spent money on. And finally, I want to show you guys the closet. I'm actually kind of excited to show this. Again, having so much stuff, have to find a way to store everything. So first of all, over here, we've got the merch rack. Check out dzpstore.com, get some DZ merch today. I had to find some place to basically put all this stuff. I didn't want to leave it in the garage, so I got these nice cube shelves from Amazon, got 2 sets of them, put them together. It kind of looks like, you know, your cubbies that you had in like elementary school or like kindergarten that you put like your backpacks in and your blankie in. The next thing you'll probably notice in here is that I've got a ton of boxes. The reason why is I try to keep boxes of nice or expensive things that I get, like tech stuff that relatively keeps their value over the time, obviously like lenses. In case I ever need to sell it or want to sell it, I like to have all the original packaging as well as like some of the accessories that I just leave in there, like the lens bag that they normally come in, as well as like, you know, owner's manual, stuff like that. And over here, this is gonna be hard to see, but I've got a giant drawer. I've had this thing for a while now. I'm not going to open it because each drawer weighs way too much. It is way past the weight limit of these plastic shelves, but basically it just has equipment that I seldom use, like on-camera flashes, just random things in there, little mount pieces, stuff like that. Now, what drawer I want to show you is this cable drawer, because after you've collected so much equipment and tech over the span of like 5 years, you'll start getting so many charging cables from random little products that might come with multiple charging cables. And I used to literally have like effectively a bucket of cables. I got so tired of it, I finally bought this little like parts drawer. Like it's probably supposed to be for screws, nuts and bolts and stuff like that for a garage. But what I've done here is I've went ahead and labeled each of the drawers. So if I ever need to be like, hey, I need a USB-A to micro USB cable, I can just pull one out, good to go. It's also really helpful whenever friends come over and they're like, hey, I don't have a phone charger. I'm like, don't worry, I have 5 and you can keep it. And the next thing I want to show you is this right here. I'm so happy. This is the latest edition. This is a NAS. This is the Synology DS1621 Plus. Now, if you don't know what a NAS is, that stands for a network attached storage unit. Long story short, the really simple explanation is it's a computer with an operating system and it has a bunch of hard drives plugged in. It's connected to the router via Ethernet. And so what happens is all the data you load on here, it's accessible if you're on the same local network, right? So if you're either plugged into the Ethernet like on your desktop, or if you're connected to the Wi-Fi on your laptop, you can go ahead and access all of your files in a central location. In this unit, I currently have 3 8TB drives and a 12TB drive, which gives me, I think, 36 terabytes of storage, but I'm currently running it in Synology's proprietary hybrid RAID system, which means I sacrifice some of my storage. But what happens is if one of the drives fail, the other drives can basically rebuild all of that lost data so nothing gets lost, and then you can just take the dead drive out, replace it with a fresh one, and you're good to go again. But it will cost you some storage. Out of 36 terabytes, I have like 21 or 22 usable terabytes of storage. It's really nice because not only can you access it on your local area network, you can also log on to an online portal that you can connect to your NAS unit from anywhere. So let's say you're at a coffee shop or you're on site and you're shooting and you need to get some reference footage off of your servers, you can. Or maybe you're out traveling and you're capturing a ton of footage, but your SD cards are getting full, your laptop's getting full. Well, overnight you can go ahead and upload them to the server. That way you can free up some space on your cards and on your laptop. And that was the tour of my office, studio, whatever you want to call it, the behind the scenes of what goes into making these YouTube videos, to what goes into my photo and video client work. And I'm hoping out of all of that, that this was both enjoyable and entertaining, but also educational to see what equipment is used and what goes into these kinds of productions. And of course, I didn't start with all of this. I started with a Nikon D7000 back in high school, and then in college I eventually finally caved and got a Sony a6000, and ever since then I've been building out my equipment, whether that's lighting or lenses or camera upgrades. But the most important takeaway, honestly, that I want to give out of this video is, well, you know, I hope you guys were able to see, oh cool, I want to get that, or I want to upgrade to that because that'll really help me with what I'm doing. But also to know that, and I know you're gonna hate hearing this, that gear doesn't matter. And I know that's such a meme now, is like YouTubers, like, you know, like they do all this setup, they get their microphones ready and everything, and they sit down in front of you and they go, gear doesn't matter, as they're shooting it on a red cine camera. But the essence of it is pretty true. All you need at the end of the day is a camera, a lens, and a story. Because what really matters is that you have the passion and also the work ethic to chase that, to keep creating, to be consistent, to not give up. There are some people who are successful and they started with a ton of equipment, but there's also a ton of people who are successful and all they started with was a camera phone and an idea. I could probably still do everything I do now even if I got rid of 80% of my equipment. But what it really is as you continue to create, as you continue to develop your career as a photographer or videographer, you're gonna start noticing, oh, actually this thing is slowing me down, so I'm gonna buy something to make that easier. You know, just a bunch of quality of life improvements, just subtle improvements, you know, just a little sharper, just a little nicer sounding audio. And over time, you build up all of this equipment as well as the skill that goes behind using that equipment. And speaking of equipment, if you're interested in any of the equipment I talked about in this video, of course, links will be in the description down below. But that's it for this video. I hope you enjoyed it, and if you did, you already know what to do. Go ahead and leave a like, subscribe, and get notified of when new videos are uploaded. Now, the question of the day today is one I'm actually really interested in. In the comment section down below, let me know. Regardless of what you're doing, if you're a photographer, videographer, maybe you're an artist, maybe you're a musician, what equipment did you start with and what equipment do you have now? And as always, thank you so much for watching and I'll see you in the next video. Peace.